Hey scholars, welcome back to another EL lesson. So today in EL, we're going to review what we talked about last week, and then we're going to talk about the expectations for your assignment for this week. So last week we talked about the structure of a paragraph, and we used the hamburger paragraph structure to show you what a paragraph should look like and what components of a paragraph should be. We also talked about how birds use their beaks to survive, and we read our text Beaks that talked about different birds and how they use their beaks to survive. So let's go back and look at our hamburger paragraph just to review and refresh your memory and prepare you for this your assignment for this week. So here we have our hamburger paragraph, and as you can see, we start out with our topic sentence, or also known as our focus statement. And in this case, our topic sentence or focus statement is how birds use their beaks to survive. So you might say something like, birds use their beaks to survive in many ways, or something like, birds' beaks are important because they help them to survive. Now, those are just examples of how you could word that. But the focus of your paragraph should be about how birds use their beaks to survive. So then in the middle, we have our details. And these are very important because the details give more information about what your topic sentence or focus statement is. So the topic sentence tells what you're going to be focused on, and the details give more information about that. So when we're giving details, we want to make sure that we're stating facts and not opinions. So facts are things that are true and can be proven, things that you would find through research, not things that you think, okay? So I want you to keep that in mind because we're writing an informative paragraph, okay? And now at the bottom, we have our closing sentence or our closure. And this wraps up everything that you've talked about, and it essentially restates what you said here, but just in a different way. And we'll review what we wrote last week so that you guys can understand what I'm saying. And it's very important that you include each piece in your paragraph, because imagine having a hamburger without any bun. What's going to happen to the hamburger? It's going to fall apart. So each piece of the paragraph is very important and needs to be included. Okay? So now that we reviewed the structure of a paragraph, let's go back and look at what we came up with last week when I showed you guys an example of how I would write a paragraph on how birds use their beaks to survive. Birds use their beaks to survive in many ways. So right there, I have my opening or my topic sentence. I'm telling you what I'm going to be talking about. And I'm talking about how birds are using their beaks to survive in many ways. Then I say, hornbills have large, brightly colored beaks. So I just gave you a fact about a hornbill. Okay, I gave you one fact about a hornbill because remember, you're choosing two birds. So there's one of my birds already. Their beaks help them knock down fruit and fight off enemies. So now I just told you what the beak does. So let's go back. So here I said hornbills have large, brightly colored beaks. I told you what the beak looks like. And then I went on to say their beaks help them knock down fruit and fight off enemies. So I told you what the beak does to help it survive. So I want you to keep that in mind, because when you write your paragraph, I want you to tell me what the bird's beak looks like and how it helps it survive. Keep those two things in mind. Bee eaters have long, thin beaks. Again, I said what the beak looks like. I'm on to my second bird now. I just told you what it looks like. The bee eater uses its beak to dig a home which shelters its young. And now I just told you what my second bird's beak does. So my first bird was the hornbill. My second bird was the bee eater. I told you what both of those birds' beaks look like, and I told you what both of those birds' beaks do to help it survive. Beaks help birds to find food, fight enemies, and dig homes. So that was my closure right here I haven't read. So what I just did there is I thought about all the things I wrote for my details and how they helped the birds to survive, how the beaks helped the birds to survive. And then I just put it in my closure because I stated earlier that it helps the hornbill knock down fruit. So I mentioned that again, that it helps it find food. and it fights off enemies. So I mentioned that again. It helps it fight enemies. And then I stated earlier that the bee eater uses its beak to help it dig a home. So I mentioned that in my closure. Okay? So let me just read it all together without any interruption. Birds use their beaks to survive in many ways. Hornbills have large, brightly colored beaks. Their beaks help them knock down fruit and fight off enemies. Bee eaters have long, thin beaks. The bee eater uses its beak to dig a home which shelters its young. Beaks help birds to find food, fight enemies, and dig homes. Okay? So I'm expecting your paragraph to have that same structure. A topic sentence, details about two birds, and a closure, which we have here in red. Okay? So you might be wondering, what birds can I write about, Ms. Williams? We're going to review the birds that we've talked about so far that you can choose from, because you cannot choose the hornbill and you cannot choose the bee eater. I repeat, you cannot choose the hornbill and you cannot choose the bee eater. Okay? I don't want you to copy what I wrote because I want to see what your brain can do, and I want you to write your own paragraph. So let's go back into our text, Beaks, to give you guys examples of birds that you can choose from. All right, so here are the birds that we've gone over so far that you can choose from. Here we have the song sparrow, lovely bird there. We have the macaw. You can choose from the macaw. We have the hummingbird. We have the eagle. We have the toucan. We have the woodpecker. We have the flamingo. We have the skimmer. We have the spoonbill. We have the heron. The pelican. And the crossbill. Okay, so you can choose from any of those birds that I just showed you. And don't be afraid to pull from information from the internet or other resources, okay? Don't be afraid to go on YouTube and watch some videos, okay? All right, so now I want to talk to you guys about some of the other expectations for this assignment, which I've wrote down. So excuse me if I'm looking down, I'm reading off my paper. So expectation number 1, you need to make sure you have it in a paragraph structure, which we just went over, okay? Focus statement, details, closure. Secondly, you need to make sure you describe 2 birds, okay? Keep that in mind. You need to pick 2 different birds. When you describe those 2 birds, you need to tell me what the beak looks like and how it helps the bird to survive. So tell me what it looks like and then tell me what it does. And then lastly, or not lastly, I'm sorry, number 3, you need to make sure you have correct spelling, punctuation, so making sure you have your periods in the right places. You have your capital letters where they should be, not everywhere in the paragraph. They only go where? At the beginning of a sentence or in a name. Good. And then also you need to make sure it makes sense. So please read over your sentence and read over your sentences again in your paragraph to make sure it makes sense. So for example, if I say birds use beaks survive, does that make sense? No, I need to make sure I add the to in. Birds use their beaks to survive. That makes sense. So make sure you read over your sentence again to make sure that when I read it, that it makes sense, because sometimes we write a little fast and we can accidentally leave out some words that can mess up our grammar. Okay, so make sure it makes sense. And then lastly, I want you to draw a picture to go with your paragraph. So I'll go over the expectations one more time. Make sure you have your paragraph structure, just like the hamburger. The focus statement, details, closure. Second expectation, make sure you describe 2 different birds. Make sure you tell me what the beak looks like and what the beak does. Third expectation, make sure you have your spelling, punctuation intact, and that it makes sense. And the last expectation is that you draw a picture to go with your paragraph. Okay, so you guys have been working so hard over the past week, and I think you really have this down pat, but don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions about the expectations or you're not sure. But I'm sure you guys got this, so just keep in mind the expectations for the assignments, keep in mind the hamburger paragraph structure, and think about what two birds you're going to write about, okay? I can't wait to see you guys' paragraphs.